Austin's grant program entitled the Gift Project, Giving Instructions for Tomorrow. And this grant has been generously funded by the St. David's Foundation. Okay, so advance directive is a legal document in which a person specifies what actions should be taken for their health if they are no longer able to make those decisions for themselves due to a car wreck or illness or some other life-altering event. Today, we're going to go over 3 advanced directives: medical power of attorney, directive to physicians and family or surrogates, also known as the living will, and the out-of-hospital do not resuscitate order. Now, these advanced directives that we're going over only pertain to healthcare. We're not doing anything with financial matters. Okay, the first form, the medical power of attorney. This is the person that makes decisions for you. Again, if you find yourself in a position where you can't speak or communicate for yourself. Now, if that changes and then you are able to communicate again, that person steps out. So they only have the ability to speak for you when you cannot speak for yourself. Your medical power of attorney has access to your medical records. They can speak to your physicians. Again, they're making decisions regarding what treatment, what procedure is going to happen. Anything regarding your health care is directed to that person when you can't communicate. The person must be 18 years old or older. Now, anyone that's 18 should have their own medical power of attorney form filled out anyway. When choosing this person, make sure that they're good at making decisions in changing circumstances and that they'll be able to honor your wishes no matter how hard the situation is. Mary Beth.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mary Beth Lee. I'm a nurse here at Hospice Austin. I'm an admissions nurse, which basically means I go out to homes, facilities, hospitals, wherever, talk to people about hospice and get them on. Thank you for joining us this soggy morning. We appreciate you being here. I will do a full disclosure. This is my first time doing a Zoom thing, so if I'm talking too loud or too softly, let us know. Unmute yourself, holler, or you can't hear me. Please, I won't be offended. Let me know what you need. I am going to assume that everybody has forms in front of them. If you don't, let us know, or you can go online and find them. If not, we can get you the forms. But as Shirley mentioned, I'd like to start with the medical power of attorney, and it should be on your screen now. A couple of things about this form. Here in the state of Texas, these are the forms that we use. If you have loved ones somewhere else in the United States, they will have separate forms. So again, all the forms are state specific. The medical power of attorney is, I think, one of the most important forms. These forms stand by themselves, so you can just do one of the forms or all of the forms. They do stand by themselves. But this form, basically, you are giving someone a proxy for your medical care. And by medical care, your medical care being they can get records, they can talk to doctors, they can get information. But the main thing is they can make those life or death decisions. Yes, I want to go on life support. No, I just want to go on comfort care. You are allowing them to make those decisions. I think it's important, so we're kind of going to go over the form, not line item by line item, but what I think are important things and sometimes what folks get confused about. As Shirley mentioned, anybody 18 or older should have their own medical power of attorney. Sometimes people get a little nervous and say, well, if I fill out this form, will I not be able to make my own medical decisions? And no, this comes into effect if you are not able to make your own decisions. Now, when might that be? Well, if you're in surgery and under anesthesia or something like that. If you're in a coma, or if you have dementia, or a loved one who may have dementia, they've been declared, well, they don't have enough cognitive ability to really make their own decisions. this is when the medical power of attorney comes into effect. That's why it's really, really, really important. So we'll just go, excuse me, we'll just go ahead and kind of start at the top. At the top, medical power of attorney, you put your information there, your name, your address, your phone. The next paragraph says limitations on decision making. That is if you want to say my medical power of attorney, my MPOA, my proxy, they can do everything but. Let's say maybe you've got a medical history in the back that you don't want anyone to know. So you can say from my medical history from this date forward. We don't see this very much, but you can make limitations, and that's where you would put that for whatever reason you might have. Most of the time people say, no, I want my proxy to speak for me. I want them to do what I want them to do. And that brings up a good point here that I'll probably mention in the end again. Filling out the form is one thing, but having those really difficult conversations with your loved one is the most important thing. So it's really important to fill out the form, but more importantly is to tell your loved ones what it is you want. What do you want at end of life? Do you want everything? Do you want everything medically possible, or do you just truly want to be at home with maybe the favorite couch or, in your bed with your animals and your kids, grandkids, or whatever? So it's really, really important to have those. I think they're kind of tough. I'm in the business, so they're not so tough for me. But we don't usually talk about end of life decisions. So really, really important to have those conversations. And even if you're not sure, I'm not quite sure what I want, but I know I don't want to be kept alive if my quality of life is X, Y, Z. I don't have brain waves. I'm not breathing on my own. So people say, well, I may not know what I want. Well, think about it, talk about it, start having those conversations. Okay, a little aside there. All right, so limitations is that first big paragraph. And then designation of an alternate agent. So you're going to list one medical power of attorney, one person to be your proxy, and then down below you have a first and a second alternate. Once again, needs to be someone who is of sound mind, sound body, 18 years or older, and you're going to list first and second alternate. Sometimes, the spouse is the main proxy or the main MPOA, and then there's maybe the oldest child or two children or a niece or something of that sort. I caution you to really, really think about and not just rotely say, oh, it's going to be my spouse or my oldest child or the child living next to me. You need to make sure your medical power of attorney is that person who is going to make the decisions you want. I go to hospitals a lot, and it just breaks my heart when I walk in and there's family dysfunction because half the family wants to put their loved one on hospice services and the other half does not want to. And I always end up saying, excuse me, what is it that your loved one wants? Because we get wrapped up in what we want and we forget, wait a minute, what is it that my loved one wants? So I encourage you and suggest that you really think about it when you're listing that. Of course, you want to talk to the folks, you want to get there, even if it's your spouse that you've been married to for 55 years, you want to go ahead and get there, okay, I'm going to put you down, are you fine with that? This is what I want, and have those conversations. Okay, feel free, I'm used to doing this in person, of course, so I'm just going to rattle on, but if you have questions, please go ahead.
I do have, I have a couple of questions that have come through.
Okay.
So one question is, since each state has different forms, what happens when you're traveling?
Good question. More than likely, they will honor wherever your home, let's say your home state, let's say you're in Texas and you're going up to Colorado, Minnesota, or whatever. More than likely, they will honor, especially if it's like a do not resuscitate or something like that. But once you complete your medical power of attorney, you're going to give it, of course, to your medical power of attorney. You're going to give it to your relatives. You're going to give it to your doctor. So you're going to kind of spread it. What I also suggest is if you're like a snowbird and you go away for 6 months, you probably, and you're in the same state, a lot of times the snowbirds come from Minnesota down to South Texas and back and forth. If you're going to be in a state for a while, you probably should go ahead and have it set from that state. most of the time you can fill these out. You don't have to go to an attorney. Our form, you just need 2 witnesses. So it's kind of like wearing a belt and suspenders if you're going to be traveling and you're staying someplace for a while. Get both. If not, you can actually just take a copy with you. You can also just give it to loved ones, and if you're saying, hey, I'm going on a trip, this is where my medical power of attorney is. And then a lot of times on our smartphones now, you can scan the documents in, and they're on that, they're not in the, where you have to have a password, like for EMS, they're on that first screen. So you can also do that. But to answer the question, I guess I would, you can take a copy with you, put it just like you do when you have all your medical card and everything else. But just let loved ones know. They should have a copy and just say, oh, by the way, do you know where my NPOA is because we're going on the road.
Thank you. And so we have a couple of other ones, but before I ask those questions, I just want everybody to know that I am putting together a fact sheet. So we'll have the Q&A sent out to everybody with the email that you'll receive on Tuesday with the recordings and resources. So all questions that are asked will be on that sheet. So the next question is this form good for when someone moves to community living, like a nursing home, or is it just strictly for medical procedures?
No, the medical power of attorney will, as long as the medical power of attorney is for anywhere. It's for anyone to have, no matter where you are. If you're in assisted living, if you're at home, if you're living with a loved one, if you're in the hospital, that this medical power of attorney covers you in any type of living arrangement.
Thank you. The next question is, would the person you give medical power of attorney to need to live in the same city with you?
Not necessarily. The most important thing is we are able to get a hold of them or the provider. Chances are it's going to be a hospital or a doctor's office. So they want to be able to get a hold of them. Plus, excuse me, they want to be able to have that information so they can tell the provider, this is what my loved one wants. If you've got somebody who's out in the Gulf on an oil rig or up in Alaska, or time differences and Far East or somewhere, probably not a good one. But no, they don't have to be, as long as they're able to be reached, probably by phone is probably the easiest. No, they don't have to be in the same state. They don't even have to be in the same time zone, but just keep in mind, this is going to be an emergency or the medical power of attorney, or like when we admit folks onto hospice services, the first thing we say is, do you have a medical power of attorney, and can I get a copy of the document? So, we do that. But no, it doesn't necessarily have to be nearby or anything. They just need to be reachable.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to continue on. So we have our first alternate, second alternate. We have found doing these, when we were able to go out into the community, that a lot of people say, oh yeah, I've done my NPOA. And then when we say, is it updated? Because a lot of us now no longer have a landline. We just use our cell phones. So if you've done your NPOA, just double check that the information is still correct. Because a lot of us move, and a lot of us cut our landlines and we just do cell phones. Okay, at the bottom of the page is where there are copies. If you have a copy, you can put where you have copies in that address. That is important. I also suggest scanning it in and sending, you can do it electronically. We don't have to have the original. We can certainly do copies. The duration is, if you want to put an ending date, you certainly can. You can put that. Normally we don't. But we do have I do have a coworker who was at a hospital, and there was literally, I think, 10 NPOAs. So they just had to find the most recent document. I don't know if there's somebody was mad at somebody or what, but literally they had to go through a whole sheet of them to find the most recent one. And that's how, if you want to change it or anything like that, that's what you do. You just you complete another one and then you sign it. But if you do change MPOAs, make sure you have those important conversations that you're saying, okay, previous MPOA, I have now designated somebody else, and please discard that document. And then wherever you took, the doctor's office, relatives, and so on, you update that. Okay, I want to go down to the paragraph that says medical power of attorney. It's actually the last sentence on that big first paragraph. This is important, and sometimes this comes up. Your agent may not consent to voluntary inpatient mental health services, convulsive treatment, psychosurgery, or abortion. A physician must comply with your agent's instructions or allow you to be transferred to another physician. So basically, mental health, inpatient mental health, there's a separate document. Sometimes that comes up, not a lot, but that does come up. And then the next line, your agent's authority is effective. Your agent means your MPOA. Is effective when your doctor certifies that you lack the competence to make healthcare decisions. So that might be someone, the first thing that comes to my mind is someone who may have dementia or advanced dementia or something of that sort. That's when the MPOA takes over. Okay, let's go down. More definitions about just who should be an MPOA. That second to last paragraph, 18 years or older. Some of the ones who should not be, if you have a caregiver or something like that, they can't be a witness. And we'll get to witnesses in a minute here. Okay, bottom paragraph. Once you have signed this document, you have the right to make healthcare decisions for yourself as long as you are able to make those decisions, and treatment cannot be given to you or stopped over your objection. So again, going back to sometimes people are very leery about filling out an MPOA because they think they will be overruled, and their son or daughter or whoever will not make the decision. As long as you are physically and cognitively capable of making them, this doesn't come into play. Now, I have seen situations where I've gone in and the loved one can make their own decisions, but they defer everything to their medical power of attorney. They just said, I'm done, I'm not making any more decisions. They know what I want, I'm too sick, I'm hurting too much, and they do that. So you can do that. The bottom line, you have control over all of your health care as long as you can still make those decisions. Okay. Next page. Thank you, ma'am. So, in the middle there, the following persons may not act as one of the witnesses. And that's kind of important because sometimes people think, oh, I'll just have my family member be a witness. On most of all of these forms, a witness needs to be someone who is not related to you, who is not mentioned, who will not benefit from your death. And I always say someone who is not really in your will. If they're going to get your car, or they're going to get your favorite comics or whatever, that's not a good witness. And it cannot be a caregiver. If you're in a facility or something like that, it can't be someone who is giving you care. So the question should be, well, then my goodness, who can be a witness? Well, a neighbor can be a witness as long, again, as they're not going to benefit from your death. I say stay away from relatives altogether for witnesses, but a neighbor or someone at the bank, neighbors are probably the best. We can be witnesses here. Those folks can be witnesses. Okay. Sometimes people get confused because there's a notary, a place for notaries. You can have a notary sign it. In these trying times, I don't even know if banks are open still or whatever, but you can have just two witnesses or a notary. It's not both. That is there. And another thing is you don't have to pay. If you have an attorney do your will and stuff, this is usually part of it, but you don't have to pay. The forms are online, and again, you can just go through and fill it out and find two witnesses to sign, and you're done. All right, the very back page is the signatures. You're going to sign it, and then you remember now your witnesses are witnessing your signature. Sometimes people will get a little gosh, I don't want to be a witness because I don't know if this is true and correct. All your witnesses are doing are witnessing that you signed it. They're not saying this is true and correct to the best of their knowledge or anything legal like that. They're just saying, I saw this person sign this on this day, yes. So that's all they're witnessing. Okay, any more questions? Shirley, do you have anything about medical power of attorney?
No.
That's that form. Again, Texas specific, it's online. If you don't have it, you can just make sure you've got the most recent date, and it's on the Health and Human Services
Yes.
website, Texas Health and Human Services website.
That's right. Yep.
And we have a bunch here. We're happy to send them out to you by mail if you'd like. We can get it to you too.
So we do have some questions.
Okay, yay.
So let's see, let me go to the first or the most recent. So I have a question. Should the phone numbers for alternates be in the forms as well?
Yes, there is a spot. So I would go ahead, especially if you already have an old one, go ahead and update it. But keep in mind, guys, that the paperwork is good and important, but the main thing are this conversation. So even if you never fill this out, but you have a conversation with your loved one and you say, well, let me back up a bit. If you don't fill the form out in the state of Texas, how it would go for your medical power of attorney is it would be your spouse. If your spouse is not available or for some reason your spouse cannot serve as a medical power of attorney, then it would be adult children. After that, it would be parents. After that, it would be any relative they can find. They can't find any relatives and it's the hospital, then it will go to the hospital ethics board. Okay? So that's kind of how it goes if you don't have paperwork. So yes, go ahead and put correct numbers or update the numbers. That is important. Yes.
The next question, and I can help with this one as well. Are there services, people with types of credentials that can serve as the MPOA, the medical power of attorney, or alternate? This would be for someone who is single, no kids, no siblings, and they do not want to, burden their friends. Yes, there are agencies that provide that type of ability to serve as someone's medical power of attorney. And I will absolutely include those agencies. You can get that through some care management agencies. I believe Family Elder Care has a particular program that can be utilized as well. But yes, there are services out there specifically for that.
Right, which would be an independent third party.
Yes. And let's see, the next one is, so there are different stages of dementia. How would the MPOA and doctor determine when the person is not able to make their own decisions? Have you encountered that?
Yes, we would defer to the doctor.
Okay.
We would, because, and a lot of times we have a family going, oh, I live with this person. I think I think they're a little more advanced than what the doctor thinks. So we would defer to the doctor at that time. If worst came to worst, we would call and say, can this person make their own, in your medical capacity, can this person make their own decisions? And so we would defer to the doctor for that.
Thank you. The next question is, can you please touch again on mental health care and the need for separate or specific documents to indicate wishes and preferences? If
it's inpatient, I know it's unmail and we may need to get back with you. It's for inpatient mental services. So if someone were to be, if someone said, gosh, I need to go in for inpatient mental services, that is what it's a separate document. Shirley, do you know the name of that document?
It's the mental health, goodness. That's one we don't usually go over, but I can get back with you on that.
It's a separate document
Yeah.
that needs to be completed. In other words, the MPOA cannot I'm not familiar with that document, but that's one thing that the NPOA cannot do is inpatient mental health.
Okay.
They can't commit someone to inpatient mental health.
Okay.
That's not one of their duties they can do as an NPOA. It's a separate document. I'm sorry. We'll find it. Get it back to.
Okay, and we can include that on the sheet with the questions that answer. And then let's see, the next one is, do the witnesses have to know what's in the form?
Oh, no, remember, all they're witnessing is your signature.
Okay.
You can, and I mean, I have gone to facilities before where I've done other things, but what they're witnessing is they're just witnessing your signature. You can just say, hey, you know, if it's a neighbor, you kind of know them, you can say, hey, I'm filling out my medical power of attorney, I've done it, can you just witness my signature? So, no, they don't have to be intimate with all the details or anything like that of what's in the document. They're truly just witnessing your signature.
Okay, so the next one
And
is,
if they want to go, excuse me, I gotta, and if they want to know what's in the document and everything like that, you don't want them to know, but don't use them as a witness.
let's see. So the next question says, if in a crisis and things are moving quickly, and in the heat of the moment, the medical power of attorney's verbal words to the doctors take precedence over the paperwork. Does that MPOA's words take precedence over over the doctors?
So this is, let me make sure I understand the question. So it is the official MPOA, it's listed on a document, or it's the next in line. I'm going to assume for this question then that there's paperwork, the designated MPOA, they've asked them, hey, what would your loved one want? That MPOA can make decisions. Yes, if their loved one is in a situation where they can't make their own decisions for, you know, they're in a coma or they're unconscious or whatever, that MPOA can make whatever decision is necessary. Yes. That's why it's so important to have those conversations. I don't know if I answered the question completely though. Did I understand it completely?
I think so. I hope so.
If not clear, ask it, just come back, we can clarify.
I do want to address the audio issue. We apologize. We noticed this before the presentation started, and we were trying to troubleshoot it, and we're really sorry.
I can get closer. Would that be how? Is it me? Are they not hearing me? Am I?
Yeah. I think it's the social distancing that's happening. I think you guys are, you know, sitting kind of far from the microphone, which I mean, safety's first. So
we're in a big room. I think we'll probably do a smaller one. So this is our first time. So thank you so much for being our test case. And
thank you.
The air conditioner just kicked in too, so I'm sorry. I'm happy to repeat anything or slow down or talk louder. So just let me know.
So these are all really great questions, and I'm excited that people are asking. I have, let's see. So let me go back to, there's another question. So if you want to leave money for a friend who is also the medical power of attorney, that's okay? They just can't be a witness. Is it okay to have your medical power of attorney be someone who you are leaving something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I get it now. That's just the witness. The witness can't be the witness should not be a family member or anybody who's going to benefit. The medical power of attorney, sure. The medical power of attorney is usually a loved one, usually someone who's there. If you want to leave money to the medical power of attorney or something like that, I suggest put that in writing, put it in your will or whatever, you know. Writing is always much better than just telling people, but absolutely, you can pay your MPOA or whatever. It's the witnesses that you don't want to, that don't want to be part of the family.
Natalie, can I add something real quick?
Yes.
On the question, can you hear me? I have a big mouth, so you can hear me. On the question about whether the verbal overrides what is in writing for the medical power of attorney. I have an example of that. We have one here at hospice where a gentleman did not want to be resuscitated. It was written down, it was documented. His daughter, the medical power of attorney, went to the hospital and said, please resuscitate him if you can. And they were able to. He went back to the facility and he was really, really, really upset. And unfortunately, in this situation, what ended up happening is he just kept making phone calls every day and donating all this money, and he wasn't speaking to his daughter. So the check for the facility bounced. He had to go to a different facility where he passed. But the whole point was, yes, he had it in writing, but that verbal from the medical power of attorney is really what's going to override everything. Again, like Mary Beth said, that's why it's so important that you pick somebody that can honor your wishes.
Thank you for that. I'm reading another.
I might come back up.
Let's see.
Thank you, Shirley.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in line with that, that scenario, we have another question that, let's say in a critical moment, the medical power of attorney cannot go to the hospital that minute. Will verbal direction from the medical power of attorney suffice if the doctors can't actually see the documents?
If they're in a hospital, that's probably going to be the hospital policy. I know here at Hospice Austin, we want the document. We want the document to make sure before we'll take a verbal. And then we want to make sure that the person giving us the verbal is the person they say. So we'll probably say, show me your ID, get you on camera or something. We're not just going to take a phone call saying, hey, I'm the MPOA and this is for patient XYZ. I think the hospitals will probably say, if I have to take a verbal, I want to make sure I've got the paperwork and everything else, and then do that. Now, you know, if it's a car wreck or something like that, and it's a spouse, they're probably going to do whatever they'll say, who is the medical power of attorney? And if they say it's the spouse, they will probably do the spouse. But each facility can have their own policy on how they handle that. All right, but that's why it's kind of important to make sure that your doctor has it, make sure your MPOA has a copy of it, the relatives have a copy. If you have a neighbor, a long-term neighbor that's part of your family, that your neighborhood family, they have a copy of it, so you have that.
I have a question. How often should these documents be updated, even if if somebody moves out of state, or if your medical power of attorney, that person ends up passing, those are obvious events that would need to require some document updating. But if none of that is changing, how often should families come together and just make sure everybody's still on the same page and keeping these documents up to date?
The true answer to that is what's comfortable for that person who the document pertains to. Of course, anytime you have a life change, you can think kind of insurance, marriage, birth, death, job changes, moving out of state, relatives dying, anything like that, they should be updated. Some people say, gosh, I do it every January 1st. I think about, okay, what has changed in my life? Is there anything that has changed? Other people might do it on milestone birthdays every 5 years or something. They do it. The true answer is what's comfortable to you. I'm kind of a case in point. I haven't really looked at mine for 30 years. And now I have a son who is now 20 years old, and he should be listed as an alternate, which he wasn't, because when I made the document, he wasn't even born. So what's comfortable to you, if everything is, nothing has really changed, I would say every, couple of years, 2 to 3 years, but I'm a bad example because I need to update mine. 'Cause I know where they are, but I need to add my son, so.
Let's see.
Are we ready to move on to directives to physicians?
Yes.
Alyssa, answer questions if you have any. Do you have any right there, Natalie?
Mary Beth, are you familiar with the Vial of Life program through the Austin Travis County EMS?
The vial of life?
Yes.
This was a question that we had last week as well, and I've made a call to Acadian about it and talked to them. But
I am not familiar with the the Vial of Life. Shirley said that, pardon me. Shirley said that she has a call into EMS
Acadian, yeah.
but enlighten me, or I'm not familiar with it.
So it's the forms. Sorry, I was looking at some information. It's I believe it's the out of hospital do not resuscitate types of documents such as these that can be kept at your home. And EMS, it's a program through EMS where they give you a certain documents that you can fill out. It's held in a special place. EMS knows where to locate that. I believe they have some kind of identification at the door as you walk into.
Where to find the document.
Well,
so they know, oh, this person is signed up with our program. We need to go check the freezer for their documents, and those documents will, give them more information on their, medical history and that. So there was a question about if these documents could be put, with those EMS instructions.
Absolutely. And
yes, that's a great
That's an
place.
idea, because you probably have an out-of-hospital DNR as part of that program. I would stick your if your whatever advanced directive form you're filling out needs to be part of that file. Is it like a little container or something, and it's on file where it's kept, and EMS calls dispatch or can look it up or something electronically? I'm just thinking is that what the program is?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing the last bit.
I talked to another guy that works for an EMS, and he said that many times with the Vial of Life, they can call and they can kind of check on things when they're on the way to a situation. If they know, who the person is and they're going to that residence, and then they have the ability to look it up. But he did tell me that's not the rule that they all do.
I will tell you, working with ambulance folks, and we do when we can go out in public. We do EMS schools and things like that, the ACC program. And the main thing, if EMS is called to your house, the main thing they're going to want to know is this person a do not resuscitate? Do they have an out-of-hospital DNR? That's the first question. Because they're probably coming into some emergency situation where it's life or death. So that's their first question. And then after that, I'm sure the Vial of Life sounds like a wonderful program. I have it down on our notes to look it up. But yes, if there's a container or something, these documents should be part of that. But EMS, the first thing they should say is out of hospital DNR. Are they a DNR? Are they a full code? And we resuscitate.
Thank you. So just to clarify back to, we had a question about whether or not the MPOA needs to live in the same city or not. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but they do not necessarily need to live in the same city. The point of, I guess the most important point would be that they are, easily accessible and reachable in case of an emergency. So if I were my mother's medical power of attorney and I live here in Texas, but she lives in Colorado, I could still be her medical power of attorney living in a different state. But that documentation would need to be accessible to her doctors there in her state. And I would need to be reached, be able to be reached in an emergency situation to be able to.
Right. And she would fill out the Colorado medical power of attorney
Right.
and then you. And then I would amend that conversation saying, and it's really, really important y'all have the conversation about what is it, Mom, that you want at end of life? What do you want me to do? So, yes.
And it's good to have an alternate down just in case they can't reach the medical power of attorney. I believe Nancy said last week that if, say, the medical power of attorney is on a cruise and they're not able to be, they can't get to the phone or they're not able to be reached, it's good to have an alternate listed.
And I bet, I'm not familiar with Colorado, I'm a little familiar with Minnesota because I have relatives up there. I bet they do have alternates too. So that, again, it's important to put a little bit of thought into your alternates because they would.
Yeah, and if anybody is in this particular situation where they have somebody out of state, my mom is not in Colorado. She's 20 minutes, down the road. So everything that we have, is here in Texas. But if you do have somebody in this position, I encourage you to look into that state's forms.
Yeah, and you could just go online, and they're literally all right there online. So, okay, I'm going to move over. Now we have 1 hour, and I just looked at my clock. I'm not going to rush through everything. If we don't get through everything, we can certainly do another one, or I can rush through them, but I don't rush very well. The next one we're going to go over is the directive to physicians and family and surrogates. And this is the form in a summary that basically where you can list what you want as far as medical treatment or what you don't want. I think the main thing about this form is it only comes into play if you have a terminal condition and or, well, if you have a terminal, it's irreversible, a terminal irreversible condition. And right underneath directives, if you look at that second paragraph, it says, I am suffering with a terminal condition and it defines what terminal is, which I am expected to die within 6 months, even with available life-sustaining treatment provided. And then right below that, if you go down past the little check blanks there, I am suffering with an irreversible condition so that I cannot care for myself or make decisions for myself and are expected to die without life sustained. So you can choose what you want. The main thing to remember is you never waive comfort care. So if you go on hospice care, that doesn't mean they're not going to give you the hospice care as comfort care. So even if you check, I request that all treatments other than those needed to keep me comfort be discontinued. Basically, what you're saying is allow natural death. I don't want either of the treatments. If it's my time to go, allow natural death. Comfort care is never waived. But people always say, I don't want to die in pain. I don't want to die of having hunger, being hungry, oxygen hunger or anything like that. You never waive that. Comfort care is always there. All right. So this is called the directive to physicians, families, and surrogates. You can also on the very back, it says list treatments that you do or do not want. And on the back, you can do that. It also has a space for medical power of attorney if you haven't done that. What I always say is, yeah, that's good and fine, but go ahead and do the medical power of attorney form too. A lot of times, because people don't fill out this form, but they do have a place there. And then most important, it says that before you sign it, it says, I understand that under Texas law, this directive has no effect if I have been diagnosed as pregnant. So someone who is pregnant, this will be null and void. I don't know if that will ever come into play, but just wanted to do that. And then once again, it's 2 witnesses that sign. All right. Shirley reminded me, a lot of people say, well, I don't know what kind of care I may or may not want. And we certainly understand that. It does list some of the things. Do you want to, if you can't swallow, do you want to be able to have a peg tube? If you can't breathe, do you want a trach? A lot of times, even medical folks say, well, I don't really know. This is a sweet little book, Hard Choices for Loving People. If you have a packet, I'm pretty sure it's in there. This gives a good account in layman's terms about what certain treatments are and kind of a long-term prognosis of what it's like, what it can be like. So that is the directives to physician and family surrogates. Once again, important form, but what's more important are those conversations you're going to have with your loved ones. I'm going to be a broken record and say that over and over and over. You know, if I don't have brain activity, do I want to be kept alive? If I'm on a ventilator, how much time do I want on a ventilator? Do I ever want to go on a ventilator? Ventilators are in the news a whole bunch right now. You know, what is quality of life for me? How do I define that? You don't really need to know a whole lot of medical stuff. You know, that's a value question to you about what's important. And what's important to me may be different than what's important to you or your loved one. So that's why it's important that you know what it is you want. And if you're not sure, that's fine too, but just be thinking about it.
Also, let me add too that with that form, like Mary Beth stated, that form is used when you have a terminal or an irreversible condition. It's good to speak with your doctor about the disease process and let him or her outline what's going to happen as the disease progresses.
Right, sure. And on the second page is the list of definitions there. So irreversible condition, a condition that may be treated but is never cured. And then if you go down, terminal condition, what life-sustaining treatment is. So good definitions there that can help you. Once again, these forms stand independent, so you can fill out one of them, two of them, three of them. I personally think the most important is the medical power of attorney, because that's the person who speaks for you and makes your healthcare decisions when you can't. But that's this form, directed to physicians. Any questions about this form? Okay, if you come up with something, let us know. All right, and then this is the one that is probably the most misunderstood. This is the out of hospital, y'all can't see it, it's up there. Out of hospital, do not resuscitate. This is the OOHDNR. And I wish I had $1 for every time I ask people when they say, oh, I'm a do not resuscitate, and I say, oh, and you're at home, do you have an out of hospital DNR? And they say, yes, I filled it out at the hospital. And that's when you take a deep breath and say, that's the form for the hospital. This is the form when you're at home or in a facility. This is if you do not want to be resuscitated. That means you don't want them to restart your heart. You don't want them to help restart breathing or anything. You just want allow natural death. We have been told over and over, if EMS 911 is called to the home and that loved one does not want to be resuscitated, wants to allow natural death, and they don't have this form that they can put their eyes and hands on, they have to do everything possible to restart the heart, to restart breathing, CPR, paddles, intubation, whatever. They have to do everything they can to try and attempt to revive the person. So if you know in your heart of hearts, I am a do not resuscitate, as Shirley said, the gentleman that was overridden by the medical power of attorney, this is the form you need to fill out. Now, if you fill this form out and they get to the house and you're having a heart attack, but you're still, you're still cognizant and you say, no, forget that, do everything, restart my heart, avoid my DNR, you can certainly say that. So what I tell people is, yes, you're do not resuscitate, you know that. This is the form you need to complete. They tried to make it one page, but the definitions are on the back. It looks complicated. It's fairly simple, but this is actually a medical order. So this does need to be signed by your physician. If you're on hospice care, our doc usually signs it. It does require, if you're a sound mind, it does require you to sign it and 2 witnesses at the bottom. Everybody who signs at top must be signed at the bottom. If you kind of look at the categories that are separated, it's for a guardian to sign. If you're signing it, you just sign at the top and then down at the bottom with the two witnesses. But the form is multi-purpose in that if a physician needs to make the decision, if a loved one needs to make the decision, it's all on the same form. So it gets a little complicated. It's really fairly easy. But the main thing is if you are a do not resuscitate and they cannot find, EMS is called and they can't, this is not posted on the door, or they don't know the vial of life, they don't know to go to the refrigerator or whatever, they're not going to spend a lot of time. You can't boot up the computer and say, oh wait, it's on the file, or go through your files. When we put people on services, we say post this above the bed, on the back of the door, somewhere where EMS is called, they see it and they realize, okay, I just give comfort care. All right. So very important form, especially if EMS is called and you are a do not resuscitate. And again, you can change this, you can rip this up, you can become one, you can go off, but most people that really want it, they need to have the form.
And it is really tiny. I apologize, it's hard to even see on the screen. And keep in mind, if you'll email me, and my email information is on the, it's sprice@hospiceaustin.org, but we'll get that sent out. I'm happy to get you this packet. This form too is notorious for being filled out wrong. And it's because people need to sign twice. The witness one signs at one area on the form and on the bottom. Witness two, same thing. Sign one area on the form, one on the bottom. And the physician as well has to sign twice. And there's a lot of times that, you know, it's at the hospital, things are moving quickly and a hospitalist is signing and maybe he signs in the wrong spot. So it's important to have it filled out correctly. And I've also been told having that back side is important. Even though it's just instructions, I think it's a way for as much as people can ensure that you've read the form. So you need to have that back side with it. And if you fax it somewhere, just fax that as a second sheet, a copy of the back.
And sometimes people question, does my doctor have to witness my signature? No, the witnesses have to witness your signature, and then the doctor can sign the form after that. So sometimes people say, does everybody have to be all together? No, that's not it. And the physician statement, which is kind of at the very bottom of the form, gives a good summary of what this form is. Okay, so again, if you forget, it says its name, out of hospital. In the hospital, it's a different DNR. If you go in for elective surgery, they're going to ask you about that. This is for at home or in a facility out of hospital.
And just to clarify, if EMS is called and this form is not readily available, the default is to resuscitate. Okay.
If the default is always to resuscitate. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I put in the chat right now Shirley's email address if you have any other questions. So on Tuesday, I will send everyone who signed up for our presentations, I will send you the questions and the answers that are provided. I will send you the recordings of both sessions, and then we will send you some additional resource information and let's see.
We're talking about too, meeting at the office, like on a weekend, Mary Beth and I and a couple of the other facilitators, and you can make appointments with us and we can witness and also meet with you in person about your forms, if that would be helpful.
Yes, and I will include Shirley's contact information in that email, so you can arrange that appointment with Hospice Austin if you would like some assistance filling out the forms or need witnesses. I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. It is a Saturday morning, and I'm sure everyone's eager to get their
Thank
day
you.
started.
We apologize for the audio. We'll be smaller next time, but we did want to social distance and just be safe out there. Please wear a mask. Please do hand sanitizing and everything else. And physical distancing, it does work. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so
thanks
much.
all.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Goodbye.